Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a new report finds that Arizona is losing out on billions of dollars of state land trust funding for education. Also tonight, the Black Chamber of Arizona releases an economic report that shows growth for local Black-owned businesses. And a new medical practice is changing the way families face Alzheimer's disease. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
For over 65 years, AARP has empowered people to choose how they live as they age. As a wise friend and fierce defender, we advocate for better health, financial security, and stronger communities. We are AARP.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A new report by Common Sense Institute Arizona shows that Arizona's lost out on billions of dollars in education funding due to mismanagement of the State Land Trust, a fund that involves 11 million acres granted by the federal government at statehood back in 1912. For more on this, we welcome Lorenzo Romero, Education and Economic Development Fellow at Common Sense Institute Arizona. All right, got it right there. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ted. Great to be here.
All right, so this report looks at education funding through the State Land Trust. What did you look for? What did you find in general? Then we'll kind of dive down here.
Absolutely. I think it's good just to understand the history of the land trust. So when Arizona became a state in 1912, as you pointed out, we were given 11 million acres of land, and about 9 million acres were dedicated to K-12 education, meaning we were going to create this fund, the permanent fund that exists today. As we have land sales associated with those K-12 parcels, they're deposited into an endowment fund, and that endowment fund earns interest, and that's managed at the Treasurer's Office. Since 1912, we had 9 million acres dedicated to K-12. We've only sold 1 million, leaving 8 million in acres, and leaving a lot of lost opportunity on what could have been done. Now, by reference, Ted, other states, when they got lands, when they entered the union as a state, they immediately sold off their lands. We didn't. Why? It's because we have this standard in which when we sell land, we have to sell it at the highest and best use. It's the most restrictive standard in U.S. history, and we have that standard in selling land, and so does New Mexico.
Why does highest and best use equate to nothing getting done? I mean, I would think that there would be some pretty good usage out there.
Yeah, so in order for it to be highest and best use, it's a subjective test. And typically at the very bottom of that standard, it has to be fair market value, and that is by appraisal. But in many cases, when you see a land sale trade, maybe it's 90 cents on the dollar per fair market value or 95 cents on the dollar. So what's happened is the land departments had to bank land, and they're selling land well above fair market value. And now the result of all that, it's been over 100 years. We've only sold 1 million acres of land. And the detriment truly is to K-12 education. As you know, and you've had this stated on this show in the past, we rank towards the end of per pupil funding. What a lot of folks won't talk about is the character of that per pupil funding. Land trusts, distributions for K-12 plays a significant part in that per pupil funding.
I want to talk about distribution more because from what I understand, I mean, we've got 7 to 8% compound interest annually here, which is a pretty good return, and a whole lot of stuff is being returned here. But the money that does go to education, and especially through Prop 123, which those distribution rates were increased, how does that work?
Yeah, so as we sell land, we take the proceeds of that land and we deposit it into this endowment fund at the Treasurer's Office. So the more land we can sell, the more compounding interest we get, and that's more distribution back K-12. So you mentioned Prop 123. So everything I said, let's set aside for a second. Prop 123, the debate is this. We want to get more dollars into K-12 education. Historically, the distribution rate has been about 2.5% of what's in this endowment fund. Under Doug Ducey, he passed, with the help of the legislature and the voters, Prop 123, which increased that distribution rate from 2.5% to 6.9%. So what that did, in essence, it increased K-12 funding by about $300 million over a 10-year period. Prop 123 has already expired. It expired last summer. The legislature is thinking about renewing Prop 123. Putting in new monies to fund K-12 education by having a higher distribution rate.
And again, the higher distribution, I think the current governor is looking at 8%, maybe even 9%.
Yeah, so there's a couple competing proposals that we've heard at the legislature. In January of 2024, the governor wanted to increase the distribution rate to be about 8 to 9%, far greater than it was just a little over 10 years ago at 2.5. Actually, currently it is back to 2.5. We've had legislators at the legislature where they have proposed keeping the distribution rate at about 6.9% for 10 years, but earmarking the additional distribution of $300 million or so just for teacher pay. And teacher pay has been a popular issue. And then there's some other legislators that are combining teacher pay with other reforms. So there's about 3 different competing proposals. We don't have legislation yet. The legislative session is going to start here shortly next month, and hopefully we'll get a bill.
The land that has not been used, the land that is still waiting out there, is there a value on that?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, think about 8 million acres. That's, if you compare that to like a state, that's the state of Maryland. That just gives you an idea, the state of Maryland. And what are we earning currently with just that land? About $80 million, where the state of Maryland, the GDP is about $100 billion. So we could be doing so much more. The idea is if we can sell more land and get it to compound in this endowment fund at Treasury, that's going to lead to much more money in K-12 education. And what we quantified in this report, if we sold down that remaining 8 million acres, let's say over the next decade, we're going to shift this endowment balance currently that sits at $8 billion closer to $40 billion. And we should have distributions and new revenue into the system about $5 billion a year. Think about that for a second, Ted. Right now, the general fund is roughly about $17.5 billion. About $7 to $8 billion is into K-12 education. This almost could double it.
Okay, but this would also mean selling a whole heck of a lot of land. That's a one-time thing. Once you get that done with, obviously the interest adds, as you mentioned, the money would be there, but selling the land, having that in your pocket, that's long gone. The critics would say that this is not wise because it's too much of a rush, it's too much of a hurry, let it play out. Do they have a point?
No, from a financial standpoint, they don't. Simply said, time value of money matters. Would I rather have money today than wait 100, 200, 300 years to have it? The longer we wait, Ted, the longer we're going to wait to help fund K-12 education. And by the way, Ted, we don't have to liquidate it all at one point in time.
Right.
The report that we produced said if we responsibly sold down these lands over the next decade, these are the results that we could get.
So why hasn't it happened? You mentioned restrictions and regulations and such. Is that the idea and the report suggesting ease those restrictions, get rid of those restrictions? What needs to be done?
Yeah, Ted, I would say there's a couple of things that need to be done, but first and foremost is to adjust this highest and best use standard and create parity with our counterparts in the other states. And also provide maximum flexibility so the state can determine how it wants to manage its own lands rather than having this federal standard that's been over 100 years old. Another thing we could do, Ted, and this is the most important thing we can do, we can treat the land as an asset. So infrastructure is an issue here. Capital facility investment's an issue here. We can borrow and we can use this land as borrowing collateral, and that can drive down interest rates to doing development projects. 1%, 2%, 3%, that's huge on multiple billions of projects.
Now, changing this, this standard, it seems to me like that would be a pretty tough process here. You have to change the Constitution, state constitution, correct?
Correct.
Federal law, correct?
Correct.
State law, statutes, correct?
Correct.
That's a whole lot of work there.
Well, actually, if you think about the leaders in the last 100 years in Arizona, you've had leaders that created the Central Arizona Project that brought water in this valley. That cost a lot of money. That included everything you just mentioned, but it was completely vital for the state. The Hoover Dam, vital to the state. It's included dollars, included leadership, included policy change. All we're looking to do is change some words in a document.
I was going to say, it also included a lot of years of pushing and shoving here to try to get this done. What is the next step as far as you're concerned and as far as this report is concerned in terms of, I guess, changing this restriction and getting it in front of voters? They've got to convince people this is the right thing to do. What's the next step here?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, you have to come out in the public square about the issue. And that's what we try to highlight here. Teacher pay is a top priority. And so here, how do we address it? And how we address it in a meaningful way? This is something we can do. Housing is a critical issue. This is something that can address housing. Growing GDP in our state's a critical issue. This is something that can address it. We're going into 2026. This is going to be an election cycle. We have people running for governor. So let's put this out as a tool for people to use and potentially to follow through to improve the states.
A last question here real quickly because we're running out of time. If we had had this conversation 30 years ago, this land would not have been available now. I get, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, is this the best time to be doing this? Should we wait? Should it have been better done years ago? The timing aspect of all this.
I'm so glad you asked that question, because if we had done what other states had did in 1912, we would have had distributed $140 billion more into K-12 education, because compound interest matters. So to answer your question, it's absolutely timing. We need to take action now.
Lorenzo Romero, again, Common Sense Institute, Arizona. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Everyone's so happy you're home, darling.
Come inside.
It's just so exciting.
It's a real treat.
What an amazing family.
Let's get this show on the road!
That sounds like a party.
Marvelous.
Will I get presents?
Oh, I love this!
Arizona PBS wants to wish a very happy birthday to our Arizona PBS Kids Club members that are having a birthday. Thanks so much for being a part of the Arizona PBS Kids Club. And if you'd like to see your name here during your birthday month, get a grown-up's help to visit azpbs.org/family to learn about our Arizona PBS family membership. So happy birthday from all of us at Arizona PBS.
I'm jumping with joy right now.
On Finding Your Roots, actors Tony Danza.
I do feel solid, like I have a history.
And Terry Crews.
Man, this is a movie. This is a movie.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
The Black Chamber of Arizona is an organization that provides resources and networking opportunities for small Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. A new economic impact report shows increases in new Black-owned businesses, leading to growth in sales and job creation. Dr. Velma Traham is the president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this report was have you guys done an economic impact report before?
This is actually the first economic impact report in the 27-year history of the Black Chamber of Arizona.
Why was it time to do it now?
You know what, when I think about how fast the state is growing and how the business community is growing in terms of not only Black businesses, but diverse businesses across the state, I thought, you know what, if we're gonna solve problems, then we need to understand the problems that we're actually solving. And so that led me to send out a survey. Our team created a survey to understand more about the landscape and the problems that business owners are having here in Arizona, and that's what led to the distribution of the report.
Now, the report seems that there's an increase in sales. There is 1,200 businesses launched, 500 new jobs creation. Jobs creation, that's a big factor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a huge factor. When I think about the strategic pillars of the Black Chamber, one of them is job creation. It's creating more employer firms across the state. And when I think about how do we create more employer firms in the Black community across the state, especially with so many Black businesses that's coming to Arizona, that's expanding to Arizona, that's growing in Arizona, it's by way of contracting. And so one of our strategic pillars is access to capital and contracting readiness. And so it's one thing to know that procurement and supplier diversity exist, but it's another thing to really have the programs to help businesses understand how to build sustainable businesses so that they can get access to contracts.
I was going to ask about access to capital because it sounds like $5 million secured here, but the big thing is making sure these small local businesses are ready for that capital and know how to deal with it.
Yeah, you know, my predecessor, Robin Reed, whom I miss dearly, that was a huge thing for him. It's the access to capital, but I'll take it a step further, but it's capital intelligence, right? A lot of people can get access to capital, but if they don't know what to do with it, if they don't know how to use it to grow their business, then it's there will not be any return on investment on that. So we do focus a lot around capital intelligence. We have banking partners that's helping our business owners understand what does a P&L look like, you know, how to have an operable cash flow and things like that. So that's important as well.
You kind of referred to more black-owned businesses and more diverse businesses moving to Arizona. Are you seeing that? Because it sounds like with 1,200 businesses launched, that sounds like a lot of folks launching something somewhere, huh?
Yeah, no, we are seeing a lot of businesses. You know what, in fact, we have people that are businesses that are part of our membership from California, from Oklahoma, from Texas, from Arkansas. Actually, one of an event that we just had a couple of days ago, well, on Friday, it was a ribbon cutting. There was a couple that flew here from Oklahoma.
Holy smokes.
And they have a membership with the Black Chamber of Arizona.
Interesting. When let's say a prospective business owner or an entrepreneur from Oklahoma or from someplace east, west, whatever, when they contact you, what do you say about the business climate here in Arizona, the overall climate here in Arizona?
Yeah, well, think about it right now. It's December and the weather is absolutely beautiful. So Arizona has beautiful weather this time of year. But when I think about the economy and when I think about different industries such as manufacturing, when I think about healthcare, when I think about banking, technology, this is a hub for growth right now. And so people are moving to Arizona at a very, very fast pace. But one of the challenges, are we retaining people here? Are we retaining Black businesses, right? I've heard, now I'm not from Arizona, I've been here 5 years, was recruited here, my consulting company was recruited here. And so one of the things that I've learned in the 5 years that I've been here, people come and they go when they don't feel like there's community, when they don't feel like they can have access to the resources. And Arizona is a pretty prominent state when it comes to business and the economy. And so now we're developing the culture and the access and resources for businesses to sustain here, not just come and go, but to actually sustain.
So, last question. What do we take from the report? What do you take from the report?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the report? It shows the growth amongst Black-owned businesses in Arizona. It shows the Black buying power, and it also shows that when a Black business gets access to opportunities, get access to resources, how these Black businesses add to the GDP by way of creating job opportunities and becoming more employer firms. And that's the ultimate goal, is to create economic impact by driving mobility in this community to ensure they have access.
Which is reflected in this economic report.
Absolutely.
Before you go, real quick, is there a gala coming? Did I hear about that? What's this all about?
Yeah, our 27th anniversary Pinnacle Pathways Gala is coming up. It's actually Saturday. It's happening at the Glendale Renaissance Hotel, and we're honoring 7 small businesses who are employer firms, and our corporate honorees, Bank of America and Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. What I love about our corporate honorees, I'll just say this, they are adding to our economy by way of contracting opportunities. So these businesses, they have access to these contracts, and that's helping these businesses fulfill their procurement and supplier diversity goals.
Very good. Dr. Velma Traham, again, Black Chamber of Commerce with this economic report, and the gala coming up as well.
Coming up.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
BrainLove is a new medical practice that serves older adults experiencing memory concerns, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and related conditions, while also supporting caregivers. Tonight, we learn more about BrainLove as part of our monthly AARP-sponsored segment that highlights issues important to older adults in Arizona. Joining us now is Dr. Danny Cabral. She's an Alzheimer's specialist and neurologist and the founder of BrainLove. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you here. Give me a better definition of BrainLove.
BrainLove is a new, innovative model of care for older adults facing cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and related diseases. And we're really taking a different approach than the traditional healthcare system. It's a holistic approach. We look at much more than the cognition. We look at all different aspects of their health, their lifestyle, psychologic, spiritual, relational. And a really important piece is that not only do we care for patients, but we also care for the care partner's mental health.
Caring for the care partner's mental health, I would imagine in some way, shape, or form, helps the patient. Does the patient sense this, feel this, see this?
Absolutely. So what we say is when the care partner thrives, everyone does. And there are so many care partners, and especially in Arizona, so everyone who's facing this knows it. And similarly, or conversely, when the care partner is struggling and depressed and sleep deprived and not getting the help they need, often their person is more down, more agitated, struggling more, declining faster, not getting out there in the world. So it's this vicious downward cycle.
So this is pretty much all built on relationships, true?
True, exactly.
Yeah. Is this relative? It would seem like this would be somewhat commonsensical, but I don't know. Maybe it isn't in this business. Talk to me about this.
Everyone that goes through this, and there's 7 million Americans who have these diseases, plus all their family members going through it, experiences that and knows it, yet our healthcare system really focuses on individuals. We're a very individualistic society, and so it's difficult for us to take care and focus on the care partner and think that helping them is going to help their person.
But it seems to me as though individualized care and personalized care would be a good thing. Are you saying it is a good thing as long as other factors are included?
It absolutely needs to be personalized, and that's what BrainLove does. We learn about the individual and their life. I ask so many questions, I'm so nosy, but also helping the care partner and learning what's going on in their life and what will contribute to help them have self-care, balance. And the biggest thing, Ted, I think is helping the care partner feel like they have permission to go seek that care, because they often feel guilty about leaving their person to do anything. And so it's complex, yet just asking a care partner about how they're doing makes a big difference.
And I would imagine the stigma, the isolation, as you mentioned, kind of referred to there, of Alzheimer's, that plays a factor into this, doesn't it?
It's huge. And in fact, I don't use the word dementia anymore because it's so stigmatizing.
Interesting.
And often throughout my career, when I've seen people get diagnosed, they often suddenly their lives close down, they stop doing the things they want to do, and also their family members do. And so what we do at BrainLove is we give hope. We say, yes, this is what you're dealing with. After we do a complex medical evaluation, we get clarity, and then we say, so what's important to you? What do you want to do in your life, and how can we help you adapt to that?
What got you started in this?
I just have always loved working with older adults. And then I connected with the grief and loss that was experienced by everyone in the space in their own ways, and there was these small losses and these big losses, and no one was acknowledging it. And so I really like to have those conversations with people.
Yeah. Was there like an aha moment where, all right, this is it. We got to do something. I've got to do something.
I just kept hearing the same thing from families. I've been in this field 20 years.
Yes.
Okay, and I kept thinking something's going to change. It's going to get better. We're gonna offer a more holistic approach, and really, there have been advances in diagnosis, absolutely. Treatment advances, 2 treatments have been approved, yet people are still complaining about the same gaps in care. And so I just said, I have this one precious life, and I'm going to try this new model of care.
What kind of response have you had so far?
People are really excited about feeling like they have some control over their lives, and that it's not all just decline. It's not all just, how much worse am I 6 months later? And then I just take this pill and go on with my life and then come back 6 months later. So it's like, no, there's so much you can do. And it's all about giving them the tools and helping them feel that motivation to change.
And you mentioned, the holistic aspect of all this. medicine certainly plays a part here. You're not ruling out medicine. You're just saying,
absolutely.
You're just saying medicine is a part of the whole deal.
It's an important part. Medications, starting medications, also stopping medications that are impacting their cognition negatively. And I led the phase 3 clinical trials of the 2 drugs that were recently approved, lecanemab and donanemab.
Yes.
And I absolutely prescribe those to people who are appropriate for those. And I support them, and I have seen benefits.
Very good. So where do people learn more about BrainLove?
You can find us at mybrainlove.com. Email me at drcabral@mybrainlove.com, and I offer free info calls with me to learn more about our practice.
And the info calls kind of lead up to the assessment that you talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Danny Cabral. Again, it's BrainLove, and it's always nice to hear encouraging things about, I won't use the word dementia either, about
Great.
cognitive issues. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
You want to be more adventurous? Arizona PBS delivers the wonders of the world thanks to financial support from you and
Welcome to Friendship Village. Let me show you around. Wow. It's like a cruise ship on land. Do you like art? Music? Heated pool? Yoga? Pickleball? There are events and group outings for just about every interest.
The food.
There's so much to do here. Move it or lose it.
Well, this is our stop.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Everyone's so happy you're home, darling.
Come inside.
It's just so exciting.
It's a real treat.
What an amazing family.
Let's get this show on the road!
That sounds like a party.